and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you and to be with our friends who are watching this, because anybody who is interested in personal growth is a friend of mine. So thank you.
That's and we've done this once before. You know, I've had a podcast conversation when you wrote the book, The Eat That Frog, for college students and bringing them in.
Yes.
So we had that conversation. Would have been a few years ago. So it's really great to kind of bring you back in to talk about really the work that kind of you're most known for out of the gate. Eat That Frog. This is the 4th edition. It's updated with new chapter, new tools, and a discussion guide. We will dive into some of that stuff as we get started, or as we make our way through. But one of the things that I wanted to get right out of the gate with you is, what was your reasoning behind bringing a 4th edition to light in this moment in time?
Well, my publishers, of course, publishers are business people. Business people want to sell books. And this has become one of the best-selling books in the world on time management. Probably is right now. It's sold millions of copies in 55 languages. And we've got a lot of feedback, as you see. We've got a lot of comments over the years. So we decided we would take and incorporate all of the recommendations from all of our readers. And some of them were just fabulous recommendations. And just like shuffling cards, create a new book. And this book is almost brand new, probably 50% different from anything that's been written, and better. It normally takes me about 100 hours to write a book. This one probably took me about 200 hours just to rewrite it.
Right.
Plus, we had 3 other writers and editors working on the book, word for word, from cover to cover. So it's really a great book. And the bottom line of anything like this is it has to be a solution to a problem. And the problem, you have to be crystal clear about this in selling anything. But the problem is that people have too much to do and too little time. And they use their time poorly. And as a result, they do not realize their full financial potential. And our job, this book, had triggered the response from all over the world for more than 20 years. The response, this book changed my life. It made me rich. Changed my life. It made me rich. And that's what we want to do with the new edition. We want people to say that the turning point in my financial life was I read this book. And from then on, I earned more money than I ever thought possible.
I want to dive into the evolution of the frog, such as it is, because you mentioned right out of the gate, so much to do, so little time. And I mean, we're going to get into clarity and prioritization and that sort of thing. But what have you noticed over the lifetime of your work in this space? Has your personal definition of the frog changed all that much? Has it evolved? Or is it one of those things that's kind of, the idea of this is what hasn't really changed, and yet the environment around it has? Like, I'm just curious about that evolution, if any, of the frog.
Well, the key to personal effectiveness for you and for everybody watching this is to do the worst first. In other words, to set priorities and say, if I could only do one thing today, which one thing would contribute the very most value to me and to my company? And whatever it is, you know exactly what that is. It's always the biggest, ugliest frog, if you like. We call it the frog because we say that the recommendation is if you have to eat a live frog, it doesn't pay to sit and look at it for too long. Just eat it. And if you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the ugliest one first. And the ugliest one is the biggest and most important task, the one you are most likely to procrastinate on, and the one that will help you the most if you do it and then develop the habit of starting and completing your most important task each day. And then it triggers, over time, you've made me rich. It changed my life. It made me rich.
I want to bring one of the questions right out of the gate from one of our members that are watching live stream. Her name is Christina. She's a member of the Time Crafting Trust community. And you just mentioned habits, which I think is a nice segue into this. And you do have, there, as you go through each of the chapters, there's one of them is from new habits, become a new person. That's one of them. But one of the things that Christina wants to know is, thinking about habits, what are some of your thoughts around removing bad habits from the equation?
Well, one of the things that I started studying more 40 years ago is habit pattern formation. And I know a lot about the subject, but the bottom line is that you are your habits. And the only way you can change your outer life is by changing your habits. And the interesting thing about habits is that they never go away. They just go into your unconscious. They have to be replaced by by good habits.
Hmm.
And it takes about 30 days of repetition, 32, 33, depending upon the psychologist, to replace an old habit with a new habit. But then what happens, as Aristotle said, is that no, I'm sorry, Goethe, the German philosopher, he said that good habits are hard to form, but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to form, but hard to live with, and that at the beginning, it's very, very hard to develop a new habit, but you keep repeating, it becomes easy and automatic, and it replaces the old habit. However, the danger is that if you slip backwards, like people say that alcoholics say that one drink is too many, and no number of drinks is too many is too much. And but why is because if they have one, they slip back into the habit of drinking. So
And
therefore, you have to practice the most important quality for success has been identified in for 2,000 years is self-discipline, self-control, setting priorities, working on yourself and becoming stronger. But the good news is that each time you practice self-discipline, your self-esteem goes up. You like yourself more. You respect yourself more. You have more energy. You're more positive, and you're much more likely to do it again and to do it again. And
mhm.
so self-esteem based on self-discipline comes from picking your most important task, starting with that first thing in the morning and working on it nonstop until it's done. If you can do that, then you can do it again and do it again. And by God, your whole life will change.
One of the things I've noticed as a night owl is I've had to flip the script on this a bit. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So, I don't have the energy early in the day to do the most important thing. So, what I've done is I've kind of, and again, we hear the term life hacks a lot, which, I have a love hate relationship with. But what I do, or at least do my darndest, because that's, I mean, we're human, right? Is I look at the middle of the day when I take a nap, because I do have to get up earlier than I would like. Ask anyone in my community. I would love to be getting up at like 9, 10, and then getting into my day. But, I have a lot of people that live on the Eastern time zone. And I mean, the world operates in that it is a 9 to 5 kind of world. But what I try to do, and I've gotten better at it over the years, is to take a midday nap, like just that nap to kind of reset myself. So I
Yeah.
look at that for me as a night owl as as soon as I get up from that nap, that's the start of my day, and that's when I go after the frog. Do you find that people have, especially again with different circadian rhythms and different ways that they operate, that they've been able to kind of look at the eat that frog and either, manipulate it in a way that works for them, or maybe there's some innovative way that you've kind of said, hey, look, maybe you're not that morning person. Here's what I would do instead to get the benefits of eating the frog. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as a night owl.
Well, my son, David's he's 38, 39, is married to Paula. And Paula, well, went to Esalen a couple of months ago for 3 days. And Esalen is a sort of a place in the mountains where you meditate and hear lectures and things like that on inner development. So when she came back here, I said to Paul, "What did you learn from these 3 full days of interacting with these other people? Always very interesting people." She said, she said, she thought about, she said, "I learned that you have to trust your heart. You have to listen to your heart." And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that you'll ever get is listen to your heart, listen to your gut. And your gut will always tell you the right thing to do. And you are a unique individual. There's almost 8 billion people in the world today. There's nobody like you, which is probably a good thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you are a unique individual, and therefore you have unique skills, proclivities, desires, tastes, so many things. So just follow your heart, follow your gut. And if your gut tells you to take a nap in the middle of the day, which it tells me as well, because I'm more mature now than you are.
Hmm.
My word,
A little bit,
mature.
a little bit, yeah.
And so therefore, if you feel like taking a nap, take a nap. If you feel like getting up and getting going, do it. Listen to your heart, and then, as they say in the army, be the best you can be. Just do what you feel comfortable with, and you'll always feel better and perform at your best.
Do you find that over your years of studying this particular field, that things have gotten more challenging in terms of prioritization and such? And are there ways that people can, because I mean, our attention is under constant barrage, whether it's, something that we actively are seeking or whether it's being thrust upon us. Like, to me, that is a huge deal. There's benefits to it, of course, but there's also drawbacks. What are some of the things you've noticed that have kind of made it more challenging for people to prioritize or even recognize what their frog is? Because some people think eat that frog and they think tasks, this thing is, it doesn't look good. It's not going to taste good. Therefore, it must be bad, when it very well may be the most nutritious. It's your kale. It may not look good. It may not taste good, but it's the thing that you really need to do. I'd love to hear some of the thoughts around that, because you've been doing this for a while.
Well, I started off poor and worked for years at labor jobs. When I was 23, I was working on a farm during the harvest and sleeping on the hay in the farmer's barn, and I was happy to have the work. And then I got into sales, and I began to ask the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? And that, of course, has been the driving force in my life. And then I began assembling a 2-day seminar, which became the Psychology of Achievement. And I explained that to people. And this is why some people are more successful than others. So do this and don't do that. And they tried it and r- transformed their lives almost immediately. The stories I've heard, thousands and thousands, and in now 55 countries, 55 languages. Why is it people just, if you don't, the more you do of what you're doing, the more you'll get of what you've got.
Hmm.
And if what you want to do is be happy, healthy, wealthy, financially independent, and so on, then only do those things. Now, there's a law which I learned in metaphysics many years ago. It's called the law of control. And the law of control says that your number one goal in life is to be happy. Everybody just wants to be happy. Everything you do is an attempt to achieve or to improve your level of happiness in some way. All behaviors are happiness oriented. A human being is structured so they cannot do things to deliberately make themselves unhappy. So
Right.
that being said, the law of control says that you are happy to the degree to which you feel you are in control of your own life. It's a very simple thing, and you're unhappy to the degree to which you feel you are controlled by external circumstances. Now, I just got a newspaper, USA Today, had
Okay.
a good article in it, and the article is that the average American spends 4 to 5 hours a day worrying about money. 4 to 5 hours a day worrying about money. Now, your audience is probably entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurs are the ones that are reaching out, looking for ideas. So
Hmm.
they're talking to us, to our friends out there. And entrepreneurs have to earn their living by selling something. And you have to sell people to listen to you so that you can create a valuable podcast. And I started studying the subject of podcasting. I'm doing a podcast myself. And so what you have to do is you have to say, what is the need that people have? And that's why I started off talking about financial results, because everybody thinks about being better off financially. And so how do you do it? So one of the things I teach in my sales courses, when in doubt, sell yourself out. When in doubt, sell yourself out. In other words, I will ask an audience, how many people here would like to double their income in the next few months or so? And everybody raises their hand, 1,000 people, 2,000 people. And I say, all right, I'm going to give you a way that's guaranteed to work to double your income. And you can double your income as fast as you want by using my special technique. Would that be a good basis for our time together today? And everybody says, yay, yay, yay. So it's very simple. According to statistics, research, the average professional business person, salesperson, makes 2 new calls on new potential customers each day. Half are above, half are below. I've met people that make 1 new call a week. Others make 10 calls in a day, but the average is 2. So if you want to double your income, then you use the law of probabilities, which says that if you speak to more people, you'll make more sales. So speak to 4 people each day instead of 2. That's all. And keep track of how many calls you make on new people each day. Keep track. So every day, you know, if I ever ask you a month ago today, how many new calls did you make? You could whip out your notebook or however you keep it and tell me. And if you double the number of calls that you make, because of the law of probabilities, you'll double your sales. And I've had people come back to me and say, that's a bunch of BS. I decided I would prove to you that's a bunch of hog trot because I've been in my business for 10 years and there's no way you can double your luck. I say, this is one of my favorite questions. Look, why don't you give it a try? You know,
Yeah.
rather than just give it a try and see, and then pass judgment. And they come back to me live, online, on the street, and they say, I couldn't believe it. Within 7 days of practicing that double your calls technique, I doubled my income. I've never earned so much money in my whole life. I can't believe it. So one of the reasons why we're together is to help our friends who are listening, to give them ideas that they can use that are proven, practical, simple, and everybody who doubles the number of calls they make doubles their income. And sometimes in as little as 7 days.
Well, and I think the other thing that you could tack onto that, if someone's say they're not doing direct sales, but they're putting out product, like the more you put out there, the more, you know. What's interesting about the feedback you would get from, say, an individual call, because I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching as well, and you know there is some of that, is you get the immediate feedback. The harder thing is when you're selling, like, say, a digital product or a piece of art or whatever it is, because we have a lot of people that also listen. They're not just entrepreneurial in spirit, but they're also transitioning from, say, their full-time 9 to 5 kind of job, and they're like, okay, I'm kind of winding down and I want to keep doing stuff. How do I do it? So they're kind of investing in some of the hobbies, and they want to turn them into something that can maybe bring in a little bit of, even a little bit of money or more. And so, but one of the things that they find that and I've heard this from multiple people, is they get caught and they don't get the immediate feedback, right? So they don't get the feedback externally because they put it out there and they just wait. And I've run into this. You make content, you write a book, you put it out there, it's out there. It's no longer really, quote, yours. And you've got to kind of, your job at that point is to market it, like, to your point. But this also leads to the question I have about the distinction between quantitative, which you touched on beautifully, and the balance of qualitative. So what I mean by that is, I have found in over the 15 years I've been doing this, is that there's been such a focus on quantitative. Like, let's get to inbox zero. If we check off as many boxes as possible, boom, I've been productive. Which, I mean, of course, Eat That Frog kind of puts that main thing first. So how have you been able to kind of not only keep that balance of quality and quantity at the forefront of what you're doing, but encourage others not to forsake necessarily one for the other? So in other words, just make a bunch of stuff, but don't focus on the quality of it, or really work on this very one specific thing, but all of a sudden you've only made, it's like the Harper Lee thing, where Harper Lee wrote one book. It luckily was a huge success, but other than that, like, one thing, and you know, it's very rarely that you do one thing of quality and boom, you don't have to do anything else. So how have you been able to keep that balance, and how do you encourage others to keep that balance between quantity and quality?
Well, Abraham Lincoln said that the key to success when he was coming up as a poor boy and working on a farm is hard work. There's nothing replaces hard work, because if you work hard, then you end up trying more things.
Mhm.
And that's really the key to success. The reason why you're so successful is because you're a hard worker. You prepare in advance. Preparation, by the way, is the key to success in any competitive sport, if you like, is prepare, prepare, prepare. But you work hard to prepare, to do your research, to find out who you're talking to and what they've done and what would be of interest to people. But the most important thing you have, your quality from my point of view, is that you're concerned with helping people to improve their lives in some way. The reason you're having me here is because the off chance that I could give a tidbit or two that will help people to achieve more of their goals. And as I said before, people want to be better off. One of my favorite examples is Jeff Bezos of Amazon. It
Mhm.
was it for one brief tiny moment the richest man in the world. Now he's only two or three. He makes about $3,000 an hour. Um, some say a minute, but
Mhm.
got $1 trillion company. And he started off by borrowing some money from his parents and driving out across the country to Seattle, and then starting to sell books online. And this was at a time when everybody thought that the internet was just like Facebook, just a place you communicated with your friends.
Yeah.
He said, "No, no, this is the greatest sales vehicle ever determined." They said, "No, no, no, it's not for sales. It's for fun and communication." He said, "No, no." And so he said, "Now, what could I sell where I didn't have to have any inventory?" It was books. So he made arrangements with the sellers of the best-selling books. If I'll take the orders and I'll pay you, and you ship and you fulfill the orders. And they said, okay, because they all want to sell books. And so somebody else came along and said, "Can I sell my product on your site?" And he said, "Sure." Now they have 300,000 companies that sell products on the Amazon site. They have $1 trillion business. And Jeff Bezos is passionate about customer service. I just read an article on him yesterday. He said it's the most interesting boss he ever worked for in his life. Guy's just passionate about serving customers well. And that's the key to great success. If you want to be, if you're married, your most important customers are your family members. And so what you do is you do everything possible to make them happy. Tell them how good they are. Tell them how much you love them. Tell your kids how wonderful they are. Never criticize them. Tell your wife or your husband that you love them every single day. I mean, just just make them happy. And there's a wonderful thing. It's called the law of reciprocity. The more you make other people happy, the happier you'll be. The more you serve your customers, the more money you'll make.
Well, the one thing, speaking of Jeff Bezos, one of my favorite stories is the famous coffee that him and Jim Sinegal had, who was my old boss back when I worked for Costco, and the coffee in Bellevue at a Starbucks where Sinegal said to Bezos, like, you know what, you might want to try a membership model. Like, memberships could work, and Amazon Prime was born from that conversation, and again, you don't necessarily know where your best ideas are going to necessarily come from. They might come from up here, but it's that interaction, it's that connection with people. And I wonder if in this world that seems to be speeding up, and COVID was like the whole COVID era was very interesting because things slowed down, but they didn't stop. And I wouldn't say everything seemed okay, but the world didn't blow up per se. Like, it wasn't like we had to keep it spinning at that speed to keep the world going around. It still did. We found other ways, remote work. I mean, you and I speaking remotely, that happens way more often now in 2025 than it did in 2020 with people, right? Because it's familiarity and it's how you kind of can connect with people. So in a world that is trying to speed back up again, and it's trying to do it, it's quite interesting. I was going to say hilarious, but it's really not hilarious to watch it try to get back up to that speed it was pre 2020. I'm seeing some of the like, whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. Like, we can't ramp up that quickly. I'm wondering, for some people, maybe those frogs are maintaining connections. They've lost sight of some of that stuff. I wonder what your thoughts are on kind of the speed that we're ramping up to, and how it may kind of cause issue with, hey, I'm not connecting with the right people. I'm just focused on again, just checking off those boxes. What are your thoughts around like what's changed or where we may be heading?
Well, the 80-20 rule applies to every society. 20% of people earn 80% of the money, have 80% of the best cars, the nice houses,
Hmm.
biggest bank accounts, and so on. 80% do not. 80% are worried about money, like this article from
Yeah.
USA Today. They worry about money 4 to 5 hours every day. Every day. They wake up and they talk about it and they go through the day and they go to sleep at night and they stay awake. That, you know that Bob Newhart skit where he says, "Stop it." Have you
Yeah.
ever seen that
Yeah.
skit? It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yes.
If people are complaining, he said, "Here's the solution." He's a psychologist. Said, "Stop it." People go, I mean, that's the solution to my whining and crying and all my problems. Well, each person wants to improve the quality of their life. Your job and my job is to help to do it. So when I talk to my audiences, and I've spoken to almost 5,000 audiences in 64 countries, millions of people over the years, as I say, a very simple thing. I said, wait a minute, I just lost my track for a second there. Um,
Just the,
I'm
the
just
the
talking
connecting
about
with
why.
people and the speed that we're at and where we might be heading.
When I tell them, like you, I say that there are three critical factors, three C's of success in life, the three C's. C number one is competition, is you have to identify who you're competing against because there's an enormous number of other people who all want to improve the quality of their life through work and income. Number two, C is competition. And number three, C is competition. Therefore, you have to compete. And how do you compete? You serve people better. You give them more of what they want and need and are willing to pay for than anybody else. Will be surprised at this, but there are other podcasts available for people to tune into than this one.
Yeah,
And
I'm well aware.
so how do you get people to listen to you rather than to someone else? And the answer is you give them more of what they want faster. And they say give them what they want good and hard. And and you need to be selfish for your listeners, and you need to say to your listeners that they are hungry for something. And the number one thing that you service is self improvement. They want to become better. They want to have better lives, better family, better health, better income, better everything else. Your job is to help them by giving them things that they can do to accelerate their speed toward the things that they want. And they will then say, well, where can I learn more good stuff faster? It's on this show. So I'll go here. that's that's your job in being successful is to help other people to be successful.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I've gotten feedback on my podcast or any of the other work I do, the one thing that I've found that has actually helped me do that more is less talking, more listening.
That's good. That's good. Now I wanted to show you something.
Sure.
People, how do you get your life organized? Well, they did a study of 50 executives, entrepreneurs who had built fast growing companies, and they asked them, how do you manage your time? 49 gave the same answer of the 50. These were they said, this is the reason why I'm successful. And it's a yellow pad. It's a yellow
Yep.
pad.
Yep.
What you, whoops,
There you go.
what you is you start off every day and you make a list of everything that you have to do on the list. That gives you control. That gives you an anchor. That's like the spine of your day. And then you review the list and say, if I could only do one thing before I was called out of town for a month, which one accomplishment would be the most important? Then I ask it again. What would be number two? What would be number three? And in our book, by the way, this is all explained in the new edition of
Hmm.
Easy. We say that there's a law of three. And the publishers were so impressed with this law, they insisted that I make it a complete new chapter. Law of three says that you may have 10 or 20 or 30 things to do in the course of a week or a month, but there are only 3 things that account for 90% of the value in your life. And your job is to, first of all, identify what's number 1, what's number 2, what's number 3, and then start with number 1. Now, that sounds like a very simple technique, but this is what causes people to say, "You changed my life. You made me rich." I couldn't believe how powerful that was. So I just got better and better at doing the 2 or 3 things that contribute the most value to my company, my customers, myself. And I never earned so much money in my life. People tell me they increased their income 5 and 10 times in a year just by focusing on the most valuable thing that they could do for the people who determine their income. And it's a very simple concept. And then what we do is we teach you how to develop that as a habit in the book. Is we get to the point where it's automatic. You breathe in, you breathe out, you do the most important thing. And your productivity doubles and triples. But here's the most important thing. When I started to study the psychology of success, if you like, I've got a book coming out on that next year. What I found was that success comes from liking yourself, from self-esteem. The more you like yourself, the happier you are. The happier you are, the more energy you have. More energy you have, more focused you are, more cheerful you are, more positive. More people like to be around you and buy from you and buy again and recommend you to their friends to come as well. And so self-esteem comes from accomplishment. If you start and finish a task, an important task, you feel happy. You have more energy. You're more cheerful. You heard the old saying in poker. They say the losers say "shut up and deal," and the winners say um, "laugh and tell jokes." And
Yeah.
the losers shut up and deal. So when you're a winner, when you're accomplishing your important task, you laugh and tell jokes. You're a happy person. You like others. They like you, and which causes them to buy from you. Number one reason why people buy your product or service or come to this podcast is because they like you.
I want to touch on something before we wrap up because I think, and I want to. There's a few. I mean, the discussion and action guide I think is a really interesting because that's a new addition to the book as well. But one thing as I'm seeing in the chat and stuff, and I want to address this is, and Dawn brings it up as well. But for some people, like in terms of success, because you brought this up quite a bit, and it's quantitative, so I get it. But when it comes to dollars, right, and money and so on and so forth, there's for some that can be, and I've come across this, it could be a bit off-putting. Like, the idea of you make more money, you make more money, you make more money. And believe me, I have to earn a living, all that stuff too, especially being in Canada. And I know, what that there's that commonality because aren't you originally, you're born in Canada. You're in the US now, but was it Toronto area, wasn't it?
I was born in Prince Edward Island,
PEI, right.
and then Toronto, and then
Mm-hmm.
my family, when I was 8, moved to California for 8 years, and then moved back to Vancouver. So
Are you in
I
Vancouver now then? You're in Vancouver now?
I'm in San Diego.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm in Victoria. So not terribly far. I was originally from Hamilton. But
My brother lives in Victoria.
oh, he does. I mean, again, it's a place where I think it's where a lot of Canadians end up, where they're like, okay, it's like the game of life, and it's the end. It's like that thing at the end where it's like, all right, we finally got to a place where there's no snow. Good, we're here now. but for those that I think it's important to distinguish the idea of number one, where the idea of success and happiness isn't always measured monetarily, right? And I think that's something that you've even alluded to, the idea of you're going to be happy or you're going to be this, the sitting and laughing, the poker player sitting and laughing as opposed to, but I mean, I understand. Is it because it's so quantitative and it's something that people can, it's again, inbox zero. Oh, I got through 363 emails today. Therefore, I was productive. Well, you checked off 363 boxes, and how many of them actually mattered? So, can we, like, in terms of success, when someone doesn't look at money as their success platform, not saying that you do, just what what how does eating that frog like help them in terms of that? Like, I'm guessing their currency would be happiness then, right? Or contentment.
Yes. Well, when people downplay money, I remember a good friend of mine who teaches finances. People come up to him at a seminar and say, "Well, I don't care much about money. You talk about making a lot of money. If I don't care about that." He said, "Oh, you're broke, are you?"
Yeah, there is that. I'm not going to deny that. There are people there is that can be there as well, for sure.
Every time he says this, they go, "Ah," and how did you know that? How did you know that? Because people who don't care about money are broke, and people who care about money, it's like your health. If you want to be really healthy, you have to eat right, you have to diet, you have to exercise, you have to do all those things. But if you don't, then your health will not be optimal.
Hmm.
And it's the same. So that's why I said, when in doubt, sell yourself out.
Yep.
When in doubt, if you're not happy with your current income, which 80% of people are not, they worry about it 5 hours a day. If you're not happy, then change it.
Yep.
Earn more. Earn more. Well, how do you earn more? Well, first of all, you start to think in terms of how can I make a greater contribution? How can I serve people better? How can I offer them a product or a service or do my work better, faster, cheaper, or more efficiently so that people willingly, eagerly pay me more? And 80% of people are unfortunately passive in this area. They get a job, they hang out with other people. You know that 50% of work time in companies is spent chatting with your friends? 50%. That's on average. The other 50%, they waste most of their time. Whereas smart people, they come to work, they plan their day, they pick their number one task, and they start on it immediately. And their favorite motto is back to work, back to work.
Hmm.
And instead of the boss having to come out and say, "Come on, us guys, let's get back to work. Come on, everybody, let's get back to work. Come on, back to." The boss has to say that several times a day because other they sit around and BS. So if you want to be successful, the first thing that I changed question that changed my life was when I was struggling. I said, "Why is it that some people are more successful than others?" And I made it a lifelong study. And once I figured it out, I did it. I did what other successful people do. And if you do, the great law, according to Aristotle, is the law of cause and effect, is that for every effect, there's a cause. So if you want to earn more money, then find out who's earning more money. And they started off behind the eight ball. Everybody starts at the bottom. Find out who's in the top 20% and ask them, how did you get to where you are? What books did you read? And you know what? People who are so busy because their lives are active will stop and they'll tell you. For example, I'm going to ask you a question, which
Sure.
is a question everybody should ask. If you could just recommend one book to me, not my books, but could just recommend one book to me, what one book would you recommend?
The first one that comes to mind is The Go Giver by
Good.
yeah, The Go Giver.
Yes, and I know that book. I think I have it. But you know what I
It's a
would do?
sales book too, but it was one that resonated heavily with me because of the way that he actually presented it. It was a parable, but the way that book resonated with me, like, it made me feel like I could do it because I've always felt that sales was kind of sleazy, right? Like, that was just the what I had in my head. But when I and actually it was the audiobook. When I listened to that book, I'm like, oh, and it was just a reframe, and that's what did it.
And so, you know what I'm going to do now? As soon as we finish talking, I'm going to turn to Amazon and order the book. The book will be here probably later this afternoon or tomorrow at the latest, and I'm going to read it. So, what I do is I make a habit of asking intelligent, successful people, what one book would you recommend? And everybody has an answer. And sometimes just one part of that one book change your life forever. It'll
Yep.
open your up. You'll do something different. You'll changes your attitude. You could say, after I read that book, I doubled my income. Why? Because I was really focused on helping other people. And if you focus on helping other people, the money will come. What do they say? Do your best and the money will follow.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. So
Yeah,
serve
yeah,
others.
yeah, something along those lines. But yeah, 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 yeah.
That's what the Go Giver. And I remember I tried to think of his name. The book's been out for a long time, and it
It,
may have been published by my publisher. But instead of by looking, you see all my books. My whole house is like that. Instead of going looking for the damn book, I'll just buy another copy.
because
My
then
friend,
you can gift it. Like I've gifted books that I've accidentally bought more than one, and not because I didn't. It's like, oh, I have it already, or I listened to the audiobook version of the physical version. Like we just did this for our book club. We had Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist. Love that book. And one of the things he says in the book is, give this book to someone when you're done with it. And I think that that's a real, because if you loved it, and I do, like, here you go. Like this, you can learn. And if you give it to the right, again, to your point, if you're talking to someone and you could see they're engaged. And here's the thing, I only hesitated to say that book because there are so many, but I went with again, you said trust your gut. The first thing was that was the first book, right? So
well,
again, trust your gut.
my friend Jim Rohn used to say that it's not the cost of the book. People think, well, I'll think about it for a while. You don't think about buying a book. You just buy it like a switchblade. You buy it instantly and put it aside. I'll have that book on its way to me before you have a cup of coffee, because and I'm not going to read it the day I get it,
Mhm.
but I want to have it available at my fingertips. And Jim said it's not the cost of the book. So people think, well, how much going to cost $10 or $20? No, it's the cost of not knowing what's in the book. It's the cost of not knowing what's in the book.
Mhm.
I remember 40 years ago, 50 years ago, my brother, I said, what book would you recommend? And he said, this book. So I bought it, and it changed my thinking forever for the rest of my life. And it all, so metaphysics and positive emotions and all kinds of neat stuff. But that's one recommendation. I don't get along well with my brother, but I still appreciate him recommending that book because it led to more books in the same genre and same catalog. And so it's the same thing. Just keep at every time you meet a person who you like and respect, ask them for a book recommendation and then buy it immediately. And just one idea from one book might change your life forever.
Speaking of books, we have a book right here that we want to talk about and finish up actually our conversation. Right, Eat That Frog is the fourth edition. You've got a new chapter in there, which we touched on.
Yeah.
Discussion, the discussion and action guide. Brian, where can people pick up the book and then keep up with the work that you're doing?
Just go to Amazon and my website.
Have it before a cup of coffee. It'll arrive before you're in California. Yes, I remember when I ordered from Amazon in LA. I'm like, I got it same day. That's crazy. If you're in Victoria, it might take a day or two.
Yeah, well, but my website is Brian Tracy at briantracy.com, and I respond to virtually all my messages, especially if it's a question about should I do more of this or less of that. Oh, by the way, just a quick value offering,
Sure.
and you should take this. Is I used to do an executive coaching program, and I charge thousands of dollars for people to come and work with me for one day every 3 months. And I have about 30 people, and it was lucrative for me. And I guarantee that they would all double their income and double their time off within 12 months. Everybody did it within 30 days. And one of the things is I said there's four ways to change your life. Only four. Number one, do more of certain things. So question is, what should you be doing more of if you want to improve the quality of your life, your income, and so on? Number two is do less of other things. So you have time to do more things. So what should you be doing less of? Things that are unproductive, negative, not helpful, cause you to be frustrated. So number three is start something new and different, something you've never done before. And this is where the great breakthroughs take place. And number four is stop certain things altogether. And it's called, Peter Drucker explained it, but it's called zero-based thinking. You ask yourself this question: is there anything that I'm doing in my life today that, knowing what I now know, I call it a quink analysis, knowing what I now know, I would not start up again today? Any person that I'm hired that I would not hire, any person I'm in any kind of a relationship with that I would not get into again. and listen to your heart, and your heart will tell you. And all your sources of stress, negativity, unhappiness, frustration, shortened life, and so on, come from continuing to stay in a situation that, knowing what you now know, your experience, you would not get into. So those are the big four, more or less, stop or start. And give yourself your whole life and say, where am I not happy or a little bit frustrated or displeased, or you think about it, it keeps you awake and so on. Just say, I'm going to stop doing that completely and walk away. Walk away from a job, walk away from a bad relationship, walk away from a bad investment. I mean, just listen to your heart, and your heart will always guide you to do the right thing.
Brian, thanks so much for taking time to have a productive conversation with me today.
It's a pleasure.